Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is the biggest threat the Clippers may face this year that they need to be aware of. So that's the topic I want to get into today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also be on the lookout for our Dreamerspro Premium community, and also be on the lookout for Dreamerspro.com, our website, which we're eagerly looking to launch at the end of this month. Anyway, let me just get into this topic here. So, guys, let me tell you where all of this is coming from. Y'all remember the Denver Nuggets that the Clippers played in the beginning of the season that they blew out? The Denver Nuggets that were below 500. Well, that Denver Nuggets team, has been playing pretty damn well. Now, if I look at the Western Conference standings right now, the Denver Nuggets have finally made it to 500. So now they have a 6-6 record, but they've won 6 out of their last 10 games. So they've been improving. They got off to a slow start, but so are some of the other teams. But now they're beginning to hit their stride, just like the Dallas Mavericks. They're the number 5 in the Western Conference right now. They won their last 3. The Utah Jazz are beginning to hit their stride. They're now 7-4. The Suns are kind of leveling out. They're now 7-4. Clippers are beginning to do their thing as well. Number 2 seed, and then the Lakers have been on a 4-game winning streak. So things are beginning to normalize in the Western Conference as teams are kind of knocking off the preseason rust and all of this stuff, and things are starting to look like they did last season, or traditionally. Now let me get to Nikola Jokic. Y'all remember the meltdown, obviously, that the Clippers had against the Nuggets last season, and their biggest problem, the bane for the Clippers, was Nikola Jokic. He was the matchup that just completely tore those guys apart. The Clippers had a lot of perimeter defenders, and granted, Jamal Murray had an amazing series, but he had an amazing playoffs. He was hot the whole playoffs, and the Clippers had multiple defenders that they could throw at Jamal Murray. Not to mention the fact that Doc Rivers did not make a lot of adjustments in that series, but they had a lot of Jamal Murray was going off, but they were still winning games. But Nikola Jokic was the nightmare matchup on the floor that was just completely shredding this team apart with his passes, right? There was no accounting for him. If I go back and look at this, the series that they played against the Clippers last year, for example, I'm just going to go through some data here. It'll take a little bit of your time, but let me just break it down. In the game 2, in which the Denver Nuggets won, right? If I go and look at that game and I look at Nikola Jokic's numbers in that game 2, he got 26 points. He got 3 blocks, 4 assists, and 18 rebounds. That was his stat line in the game that they won. In game 5, when they won that game, let me go look at his numbers here. In game 5 for that series, okay, for whatever reason they don't have his numbers, but y'all remember what he did. He was just a matchup nightmare for these guys. And he was really, really, really hard to contain. In Game 6, okay, I got his numbers here. In Game 6, Nikola Jokic, although he was pedestrian, let me look at his numbers here. He didn't put up amazing numbers. But again, he almost had like a 10-plus rebound game. And he was just really a problem for the Clippers, and they could not handle him. Now, this season, Nikola Jokic, if I read you his stat line, is going to blow your mind. Let me just read you guys the stats that Nikola Jokic is averaging this season. For the season, Nikola Jokic is averaging 24.2 points per game. That's fine. He's getting you 11.2 rebounds. That's good. But he's averaging 10.4 assists per game, and he is leading the league in assists while averaging a triple-double as the center, as a center. Think about that for a second. This guy is averaging a triple-double and leading the league in assists as a center. Some people have made the argument, is he the best passing big man in the history of basketball? I don't know. Some people said that. The guy's shooting 57% from the field, 37% from the 3. I mean, think about what I'm telling you, and getting you 1.9 steals per game. Nikola Jokic is a nightmare matchup for the league. Last season in the playoffs, he gave the Clippers fits. There was nothing that they can do with him, especially when they tried to put Montrezl Harrell and Ivica Zubac. Now, some people said, listen, Montrezl Harrell was too small. Montrezl did play with a lot of physicality, but he was just too small at 6'7", 6'8", trying to guard Nikola Jokic. He couldn't do anything with him. But Zubac was a legitimate 7-footer, and he was just not skilled enough. he was still eating him alive. So it really didn't just come down to size. It came down to being a skilled defender. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Clippers went out there and made sure that they got a Serge Ibaka. Because let me tell you something, man. This guy is no joke. He is no joke. Now, the Lakers were able to play the Nuggets better because the Lakers had better interior defense and they had much better rim defenders. They had Dwight Howard, who was a multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year. They had a lot of length and athleticism at the rim. They had JaVale McGee as their third center or second or whatever it is you want to call it. They had him there. And they had Anthony Davis, who in my opinion, could have possibly won the Defensive Player of the Year last year. And they had these three big bodies to constantly throw at Nikola Jokic. Size, like great defenders to throw at this guy, and that's how they were able to overcome him. And they were able to withstand Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray started to come back down to earth by the time he made it to the Western Conference Finals, because the first two rounds he was cooking, especially in that first round against the Utah Jazz when him and Donovan Mitchell were just going tit for tat. It was unbelievable. You got to the last time I saw something like that, you got to go all the way back to Ray Allen versus Vince Carter, like in the early Eastern Conference playoffs, like in the early 2000s when these guys I mean, it was an amazing like duel in that playoff series. But this year, man, I mean, listen, Nikola Jokic is having a hell of a season right now. He is having a hell of a season. And I know the Clippers have Serge, right? They have Serge, and Serge has led the league in blocks, I think 2 or 3 times in his career. He's not as youthful as he used to be. Serge Ibaka is 31 years old. But I think if they were to meet this team, Nikola Jokic is still a serious threat. Now, the Clippers are better this year. They are a better team on all fronts. Offense, they have a much better offensive system that they're running with the running tidbits of the triangle. They have better ball movement. Guys are motivated. And let me say this as well. The Clippers could have overcome the Denver Nuggets last series if Paul George played a little bit better, because Kawhi Leonard had one bad game in the playoffs last year, and it was that Game 7, and that's the game he could not afford to have a bad game. But if Kawhi was Kawhi and doing his thing, I think he would have been able to make up for Paul George. But when he was off and Paul George was off and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray were going off on these guys, I think Jamal Murray in that Game 7 scored 40 points in that Game 7, if I'm not mistaken. It was too much, and the Clippers could not overcome that. If Kawhi was playing the way he normally plays, I think they would have been able to overcome the Denver Nuggets, because, I mean, Kawhi is good enough to do it. But given the fact that he had a poor performance, Paul George was inconsistent all throughout the playoff, and then Nikola Jokic was just eating dudes alive, I think it was just a recipe for disaster, and ultimately that's one of the reasons why they lost. Also, given the fact that Doc Rivers and these guys were not making adjustments. But this year, man, Nikola Jokic is having a better season this year than he had last season. Last season, he averaged 19 points per game, shot 53% from the field, 81% from the free throw line, got you 9.7 rebounds, and got you 1.2 steals. This season is even, this season is even up. Last season, he averaged 7 assists. Now he's averaging 10, 11, and 24, shooting 57% from the field. Come on, like, it's crazy. So, I don't know. I mean, if the Clippers and the Nuggets were to meet this year in the playoffs, I would absolutely pick the Clippers 10 times out of 10. But they need to be able to account for this guy, because this guy is no joke. He is without a doubt the best player, the best big man in the NBA going right now. And with these type of numbers, man, it's just absurd. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you think that Nikola Jokic is a legitimate threat that the Clippers may need to pay attention to down the line? Or do you think that, listen, it's no big deal? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day. Catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.